Uh, Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Demons from Outer Space Samurai Week Part 3. Did I say Samurai Week?
You
Samurai
did.
Month. Samurai Month, motherfucker. Episode 3. We have left the world of American properties inspired by samurai behind, and we are now actually going to get into some real, actual samurai cinema.
Watch
But
out.
in an interesting twist of fate, we are now going to be looking at a samurai film that is greatly influenced by the West
Oh.
because Throne of Blood.
We are talking
So,
about Throne of Blood. Akira
yes.
Kurosawa, not his first samurai movie, surely not. I mean, this is 57, right?
Yeah, no, not
So
his first.
this is he's well into it at this point. He's plunged his sword well deep into Toshiro Mifune many times and gone, is that deep enough? He's gone,
It is.
Yeah, it's pretty deep, Akira. Well, we're going to do it again. God damn it.
It is, however, fun fact, the first Akira Kurosawa movie that I ever saw.
Okay,
So
there you go.
that is indeed a fun fact. So as I already mentioned,
had
this
fun
is
with
this is an adaptation of Macbeth, famed Shakespeare play that some of you might have read in high school,
Did
assuming
you
that you
read it in high
finished.
school?
I did, assuming that you finished high school, of course.
I tried. And succeeded. So there it is. But I did read Macbeth in that time as well. I don't really remember a whole lot about it outside of the murder scene.
And as Bill already alluded to, it does star Toshiro Mifune, because of course it does. So I guess the big place to start would be Bill. What were your impressions? This was your first time seeing Throne of Blood. How'd you walk away from it feeling? Were you a changed man? Were you, or were you simply the same man but with one more movie in your catalog?
I walked out of the graying mists of the spider's web forest, and I said, I enjoyed that quite a bit. It is I mean, I enjoyed it. Not only is it like it's a pretty good adaptation of Macbeth, to say the least. I enjoyed it immensely more than I enjoyed my experience with that play when I read it in high school. I can't remember if I saw. I mean, I don't think that's all that amazing. That doesn't surprise me at all. I mean, it's a atmospheric, well acted, and the cultural difference, I think, also holds a massive point of interest for me. I mean, I'm just generally more interested in the feudal period of Japan than I am. Was that Scotland in Macbeth?
I want to say that yes.
So, I mean,
Been a while.
not that that's a huge point of contention. I think it is a pretty big point of contention. I definitely think that adds a lot more personality to it, and a personality that I just don't think that play has. I've never seen a movie version of Macbeth. I don't think I've seen the one of Hamlet, the one with Branagh, but I don't think I don't think I saw a movie version of Macbeth that's just based on the play straight up.
I've only seen two movie versions of Macbeth. One of them is Throne of Blood, and the other one we watched in high school, and it wasn't very good, but it had Patrick Stewart in it, and it was set in World War II.
Whoa, that's weird.
And the witches.
I guess if you're like, oh, we're gonna set Macbeth in Japan, I guess maybe before that had been done, somebody might think that was weird. But I think setting it in World War II is weirder.
Well, listen, the Shakespeare plays get transformed into any and all setting imaginable. There's Shakespeare plays in World War II, Shakespeare plays in the 90s where guns are called swords, Shakespeare plays in space, Shakespeare plays with lions. It's never ending. So, yeah.
You might say that he's a literary icon.
What do you think about it? So you don't like the play? You didn't enjoy the play when you?
I'm
read
not
it?
saying that I don't like it. I would have to probably watch one of the better film adaptations or adaptations that, or maybe listen to an audio version of it, to really get the full experience that wasn't it forced through the American public education system.
Yeah.
But. I mean, the core narrative is interesting and has a lot of, thematic weight, of course. The cautionary tale is certainly worth hearing. But yeah, I definitely think that the film does a really good job of getting all that across, and then also developing its own world. And that was what I really liked. It really draws you into the fucking, the setup of everything. There's this fortress, and it's all got these different fucking lords and everything. And, they're all under the veneer of all this honor, but in reality, they're all vying for the same job, and they're all kind of betraying each other slowly but surely. It did a really good job of making all that interesting. And not just making me like, all right, I'm in history class now. It all felt like it had a like I said, a personality and a uniqueness.
What's interesting, Macbeth, of the 3 Shakespeare plays that I read in high school, Macbeth was not my favorite, but it was my second favorite. And what's interesting to me is that
Taming of the Shrew.
No, we never read that in high school. My favorite was actually Julius Caesar. But what was I saying? What's interesting is, despite how different feudal Japan is from feudal not England, but the feudal sort of European region, despite all of those cultural
white people,
old white people, despite all of those cultural differences that are just inherent in that sentence. The story of Macbeth translates surprisingly well, and I think it's because
it's human nature.
The concept of monarchy sort of breeds this kind of tale, sort of just
you can replace it with any figure of authority.
Yeah, it works extremely well, I think, and I think. I think Kurosawa picked a good one to adapt. I don't know the history exactly of how he settled upon doing a Macbeth adaptation. I don't know if he was like a huge Shakespeare guy and just wanted to do it, or what the details were. But it works. It works very well.
I imagine he was pretty into Shakespeare in his scholarly days, and he always wanted to do something with those kind of themes. And this movie was his big way to do it. And it is essentially the ultimate cinematic theater experience. There's a lot of focusing on one set and having a lot of action happen on it. It doesn't have the insane, gigantic set pieces of a Seven Samurai,
No.
It's a distinctly different film from that, which that's my Samurai Kurosawa in. I've seen that. And I definitely like that more than this, because that's more of a movie that I'm more familiar with, and it has a lot more time to develop its characters as well. That's a TV show masquerading as a movie, is what that is.
Throne of Blood actually is, despite being based on a Western play, a lot of its conventions are rooted in sort of the Japanese theater tradition.
That makes a lot of sense, yeah.
No, and all of that shit.
Like, especially given how it opens with the song. I don't know if Macbeth was supposed to have any kind of like weird, like ominous hymn at the beginning or something, but the fact that this we all know that the theme's going in. But that definitely gave a haunting kind of knowledge of doom to the whole thing that worked well, opening with that whoa,
Definitely. So I'm not entirely
should we talk about the evil spirit? Because that's what I wanted to jump to. Because I don't remember what its counterpart was in Macbeth. Was it the Three Witches, or was that another Shakespeare thing?
No, yes, it's the Three Witches in Macbeth.
They share an eye, or am I thinking of Hercules?
That's a Greek mythology thing.
I'm thinking of the Greek mythology thing.
I don't think the Three Witches in Macbeth shared an eye, but again, it's been a while, so maybe.
Yeah. Yeah, the evil spirit in this was way scarier than them. Like I've said, I've never seen a film version of that, so I don't know how they've portrayed them. You know what? Now that I just said that, I think I'm wrong. I think I actually have sat through a movie version of Macbeth, thinking back to like all those repressed high school memories. It was an older one. It was like a 70s or 80s version. I remember enjoying it okay at the time. Like I said, I think the cultural shift had a lot to do with my my vast enjoyment of this movie, and I hope that doesn't portray me as a weeb. You know, I hope it more portrays me as. I hope it more portrays that this film does a better job of making the Japanese culture at the time more interesting than the version of Macbeth that I saw, making that time in England more interesting.
It just shows that you're a consumer who knows what he's interested in, and what he's
That's
interested
Japan.
in, and what he's interested in is being a weeb.
Yeah, I guess you're right. I can't run from it anymore. We just spent an hour before we got on this call talking about Dragon Ball, so we can't really, stand on false pretenses here. So anyway, I definitely still... I remember thinking the way they did the witches in that version was cool. But, like, the evil spirit, holy fuck. That voice? God damn.
Yeah.
That was
And
some creepy shit.
And at first when you see it, you're not sure, like, it's gender. You know what I mean? Like, you're not sure if it's like an old... That was
what I was going to say. Like, how did they do that? Did they get a man and a woman, like an old man and an old woman, to talk over each other? Because that's what it sounds like.
Perhaps.
God knows what the hell that
sure.
thing is. Like, that's what I liked so much about it is...
There's a video somewhere on the internet, and I wish I could remember where I've seen it. It's not porn. It was talking...
you, but all right.
There's a video somewhere talking about this movie, and God, I wish I could remember who it was so that I could credit them. But basically, they explained that evil spirit comes from some like old Japanese like folk tale about people who stumble into the woods and they find like a little shack with a spirit in it singing a song.
I'm sure the Spider's Web Forest was based on a real thing, even if there wasn't a real thing called that.
Yeah, but there's like this Japanese folk tale about people who walk into the woods and find a little shack with the spirit singing the song, and then it disappears, and there's like a pile of bodies behind where the shack was. Like that's not invented for this movie, and I wish I could remember the details. But
so
like
yeah, all the things that he borrows from different places, he portrays it so immensely well that
they
makes it
basically
his own.
They basically just replaced the concept of a witch, which is a very sort of European fear, and replaced it with something that the Japanese audience would be more familiar with.
Yeah. It's something more abstract, and I think that's creepier.
Mm.
Like a witch is... Alright, that's a person who is in bed with Satan. We get it. But we don't know what the fuck this thing is. It just shows up and goes, here's what's going down. What are you guys going to do about it? And,
well, it seems to be...
and it's such a immensely powerful moment.
It seems to me, and this is just personal interpretation, that it might be more than one spirit, because then later on in the movie, when he goes back into the forest, it transforms into like a bunch of like soldiers. You remember that? And they're like waving a spear around and like telling him that he won't be defeated until the trees rise up to fight him.
Wasn't it just one guy?
Was it just one?
I'm pretty sure. I know that he did look she did look different, and it was in a different like kind of warrior's gear. I don't remember there being more than one. Maybe initially he made him hallucinate that there was a couple of other enemy soldiers. I remember vaguely something like that, but I don't think that there was that he was like whoa, like multiple people speaking at him at once.
Maybe you're right. Maybe it was just the one. I could be misremembering that moment, but
we didn't do this when we were scheduled to do it, if you didn't notice.
Yeah, we were supposed to record this nearly a week ago, so
but we watched a goddamn movie.
But
that awkward silence afterwards did not like give us a whole lot of credit, but we did in fact watch the movie.
So I guess we should get into the. Was there anything else you wanted to say about the creepy old man ghost?
Not unless I can find out how they did the voice. I mean, if anything, it shows up and gives. What is Toshiro Mifune's character's name again? Is it Wahazuki or I looked it up before because I couldn't remember, and I still can't remember.
It's Washizu.
Is that his first name?
I don't know.
Because I
I
was
don't.
trying to I was trying to remember his last name because that's what they used more frequently in the movie.
I don't know. I don't know how Japanese names work.
I remember his friend's name, Miki.
Yeah.
Akira Kubo was in this too. I mean, there were a lot of Godzilla faces in this to look out for. The guy who played Mickey, even I don't know. I don't remember what exactly he was in, but he was in something.
Well, this, like many Kurosawa films, is of course a Toho production.
Yeah.
So
And this is 57. So this is before the monster movies hit their big swing. This is when they were just starting. So they were all young and ready to swing swords at each other.
it's true. We were like in that Godzilla break between 55 and 62. Where it's like, is this going to be a franchise or not? You know.
Yeah, what was 57? I know Rodan was 56. Maybe Mysterians was 57.
Could be. I'm not sure. Mothra was in 62,
I don't remember
right?
movies. No, Mothra was 60, 61.
61. That's it. Yeah, 61.
I don't remember movies. Except Throne of Blood. That's the only movie I remember. What a coincidence.
Yeah. So Throne of Blood. Toshiro Mifune as Washizu. How did you feel about his performance?
He doesn't. He's kind of like Mad Max, where it's like you watch it and you're like, oh wow, for a main character who, you know, I've seen so much, like so many people talk about it, and he's so iconic in cinema history. You know, he doesn't talk that much, but the performance is all it's all in the physicality and how that relates to the dialogue that he does have, and in his interactions with his wife in particular, Asagi. I remember her name. Like that's all immensely fascinating, and a lot of it's visual. Like you just watch the looks on his face evolve as she speaks, and it's so satisfying, and it just tells you so much about what's going through his head. And you don't really need him to just sit there and go, I'm gonna do this, and this, and he does a little bit of that, but not to any degree where he's like this conniving villain. And that's what's so good about him, is that. And then he's in the original Macbeth play too, but I never got into Macbeth's head in the way that I did with this guy. This is a guy who's doing his job until basically the universe is telling him to stop, you know, and try something crazy. And I thought that was really, really cool, and it's really sympathetic. And when you have a storyline where you're gonna go, we're going to kind of have our protagonist not duped into committing a murder, but kind of convinced into committing a murder. And it's been done before in different context. Not before, but it's been done after in different contexts as well. It's kind of a risky ploy to make that, you know, like, you're going to follow the guy with any kind of, like, sympathy and relatability and enjoy it in any way. But like I said, they do such a good job of making it seem like there's literally nothing else he can do, you know?
Right. Well, I mean, the real villain in any version of Macbeth is
human nature.
Well, yes.
Animal instinct, man.
The real villain in Macbeth is man. Yes, man.
Yes.
No, Lady Macbeth, who of course famously convinces Macbeth to murder the king, or in this case the great lord of Spiderweb Castle,
right.
So that he can then take his place. What did you think of actress whose name I can't remember in the role of Japanese Lady Macbeth analog, whose name I also cannot remember?
We talk a lot about, in specifically Japanese sci-fi stuff, how a lot of times the exposition kind of doesn't work. It just feels like, I don't know what they're talking about. I'm not convinced they know what they're talking about. Like, it just kind of does. It's just kind of nothing. But this is one of those movies where all the exposition, filling in the characters and the world, it's really strong, and a lot of it comes from her. And so she has to be strong doing it, and she is. She's very reserved. She's not like a fucking bubbly, you know, dipsy wife, and she's also not, she's not immensely feminine, but she's also not like immensely like nagging or anything. She's very stoic. She befits him well. You can tell that they definitely have a connection personally that allows them to work well together as in a relationship. Even if they are barren, quote unquote. And that was all immensely effective. I'm sure we can. I'm sure that'll come up again. The fact that, you know, she was going to give birth to a child and it was stillborn the night their castle was being invaded, and basically Toshiro Mifune was like, "Fuck this."
Yeah, which is of course a great bit of dramatic irony, because
does that happen in the Macbeth?
I don't recall.
There were so many like great moments in this where I was like, does that even happen in the play? The moment where she's washing her, like trying to wash the non-existent blood from her hands, like.
Yeah, that's.
And I was wondering in my head, like, is she thinking that it's the Great Lord's blood, or is it her baby's blood? Like, is it both? Like, I think there's a lot going on there.
Yeah, the thing with the trying to wash the blood off of the hands is definitely from the play.
Okay.
Because that's one of those lines that's very, you know, famous. The other one is we were talking.
I don't remember, man. It's been so long.
The other one
read
was,
that and talk about it on a podcast. That'd be one for the books if we're talking about fucking Shakespeare.
The other big one is we were talking about the witches and how they're not as frightening as this Japanese ghost guy. Part of the reason for that for me is that Macbeth, the play, is actually where the phrase double broil and trouble comes from,
and that has become. I forgot about that.
And that has become such a fucking like meme in every like children's witch movie for the past
cliche, yeah.
For like the past 60 years that it's impossible for me to hear that line and then take it seriously. No, but yeah, the blood washing thing is definitely from Macbeth. I don't remember if the stillborn baby thing is, though. I think that might have been an addition to this film to give Washizu like a final push to decide to murder Mickey and try to murder his son, because, you know, the whole thing is like he's going to name Mickey's son the successor to his throne because him and his wife are sterile anyway, and the forest spirit already told him that he's going to take over, so it just seems natural to be like, okay, well, he's going to be my successor. But then his wife is like...
Well, right, because the spirit also said, you're going to be greater and lesser than Mickey.
And then... But then his wife is like, but I'm pregnant. And then he's like, oh, shit. So now it's different, because now he does have an heir.
Right, so that's when he tries to kill Mickey's son, no? It's not after the... Oh, okay, because I thought before it sounded like you were describing as he tries to kill Mickey's son after the baby's stillborn. But when the baby... When she's going into, like, labor... Like when the baby's stillborn... That's when shit's going down.
When the baby is stillborn, that's when he realizes I done fucked up, and yeah. I think that's when he rides back off into the forest to talk to the spirit.
Well, yeah, he's basically. I think you're right. That's basically the moment where he's like, "Fuck this."
Yeah, one of the great things in Macbeth is the character sort of descending into madness over the course of the play, and I think Toshiro Mifune plays that really well, almost distressingly so, in this movie.
Because it's not the traditional Western interpretation of it. It's this way more intimidating and scary, reserved madness. Like I said, it's all in the eyes, man. Toshiro Mifune does it all in his eyes.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And I think that's really great.
Also, I wanted to mention, you made the point earlier about the exposition thing. That's an interesting thing to note with a lot of these samurai films. That problem that I have with Japanese exposition pretty much only applies to their science fiction, I find. Mm. Because most of the time, whenever I'm watching like one of these samurai films and like they do like exposition about like all of the politics involved, it makes perfect fucking sense. So I think it's just a matter of them not knowing how to write.
It's just a matter of science. I mean, it makes sense. Science fiction in general is a little more complicated because it's not fucking real.
Yeah, I feel like they're always trying to do like that Star Trek like technobabble thing, and they just can't pull it off quite right, you know?
No, it's not even like it might even not even be that it's not good. It's just getting it across to a global audience is not. It's just not as
right.
Not as accessible.
written in such a way that it doesn't translate well.
Yeah, it's not a matter
Perhaps.
of good or bad. It's just a matter of who's watching it. But no problems like that here. But I mean, dude, listen. We can talk about how good of an adaptation this is all day, but I really think that it's all about like the execution of it that makes this so special. Because at a certain point, you kind of forget about Macbeth, and you just go, "This is the story," you know? It's this guy fucking just trying to cement his reign, you know, his fucking time as the Great Lord. Because now he's tried for it, so he's got to make it count. And I just thought that like that desperate, hungry struggle was so well emphasized. And one of the many pillars of it is the cinematography in this film. Fucking stupendous. Like the first half hour is probably my favorite part. The way that whole bit is shot is so atmospheric. You feel like you're watching a monster movie. You're just waiting for Daimajin or Rodan or Godzilla to show up. Or the abominable snowman of the Himalayas or whatever. It's so atmospheric. But then it's just a creepy man, Japanese woman with a weird voice. But it's still immensely satisfying.
Definitely.
Do you agree that the cinematography is kind of like it's almost like worth the price of admission alone? Like you can tell somebody, even if you don't like Shakespeare, you don't like dramas at all, if you're somebody who exclusively likes like fucking Dragon Ball, you should watch this based on the fact that it looks amazing.
Yeah,
that should be enough.
And that's just the pure Kurosawa coming through there.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you can say that about a lot of his movies on kind of a superficial level, but this one in particular, so much of the story that Shakespeare has to get across through dialogue or like stage directions or whatever is told visually. And it's so effective and so unique. This is a good movie. In case nobody has told you in the past, Throne of Blood is a good movie.
Yes, everybody go see Throne of Blood if you're interested. I know it sounds like the name of like a '90s metal band, but
it probably was, and they probably, even if they knew about this movie, it probably wasn't even their inspiration. But
I mean, you never know. There's a band named after Godzilla, so why the fuck not, as they say. But see, this is hard because it's a good movie. So it's like what
there's
to
no
say.
shit to talk. No.
Yeah, where do I go from? Where do we go from here?
I definitely think there's elements of the play that are unemphasized for runtime. It's fun. Like I was a little surprised at how short it was. Didn't complain, because I definitely felt like at the end of the day they got the narrative job done. But at a certain point, I was wondering who the fuck all these people were that they kept mentioning by name, you know, like Noriyasu and all these other fucking lords and all these other fortresses, and you know, we spend so much time with Toshiro Mifune and his wife that, as interesting as the rest of the world is, it feels very far away.
Well,
so
there's the one lord who betrayed the Great Lord at the beginning of the movie.
Right, he was the kind of your stinger bad guy, yeah.
The one that Washizu and Mickey were coming back home from fighting at the beginning, and then it's his fucking place where Washizu gets posted afterwards, and you go into the room where he killed himself, and the blood is still on the wall and all that. I don't remember his name though. Yeah, I'm trying to think, because again, it's been a while since I read Macbeth, and the first time I saw Throne of Blood, it was much more recent that I had read Macbeth, and so I was like, oh yeah, I remember all this. And now I'm like, wait, what was it? So there was a character in the play, I'm pretty sure, whose like whole thing was that he was protecting the prince, and so he's there. In the scene where he tries to like get back into the castle and they shoot the arrows.
Yeah, I thought that was all underdeveloped. All the stuff with what happened to the prince after fucking Toshiro Mifune, killed his fucking dad. Like, I was a little bit like, do they know who did it? They obviously must. How do they figure it out? They just Toshiro Mifune just goes after them.
Yeah,
and at
the
a
one
certain
guy.
point, I'm questioning the logic of why he's running around like a chicken without his head off if he's not trying to be suspicious,
Mm-hmm.
He's looking very suspicious. And I liked at the end that they just figured it out, like that they just kind of put everything together and they were like, we're fucking done with you. Like, you were never any good for us anyway.
Yeah, that's a wonderful scene all around.
I saw that in film school and I didn't even remember that it was from this movie. So when that happened, I was like, oh, this is a treat. I remember this, and I remember being blown away by it.
Yeah. You know that all of the arrows, except for the one that goes through his neck, obviously, are real in that scene.
I believe it.
They had real archers being very careful and firing at him. So
it looks amazing. I mean, you don't even think about the fact that he obviously wasn't actually hit, because it just looks so real and the emotion of the scene is so powerful. I love what he's wearing. He's in his total getup, like he's ready for battle, and all of his guys just turn on him.
If I remember correctly, I believe the way they did it was like the bottom half of the arrow like comes in on a wire, and then like the back half of the front half of the arrow like is rigged to like pop up, so it looks like it went through his. I think that's how it works. I don't remember. Point is, it's the only trick arrow in the whole thing. The rest of them are all very. That's the kind of filmmaking sort of work ethic that you don't see anymore. Back in the days.
No, I mean everything. I mean, we can do everything with one medium now, so we don't need all these varying different kinds of technical like departments to do different stuff.
Back in the days when fucking if Buster Keaton wanted a house to fall on his head, they had to drop a house on his head. Like there was no faking anything. So that well done, I suppose is what I'm trying to say.
So I do think that there are problems with this film. Like I said, I didn't like it as much as Seven Samurai. I didn't like walk away going, oh my god, it changed my whole. It did not change my life, as you asked me at the beginning of this podcast. It was a film that I enjoyed watching. I walked away with it. I walked away from it, thinking about the themes of Macbeth a lot more than I ever have, and taking away more from it. Thinking about how easily somebody can be drawn into doing something so stupid and so horrible for so little fucking gain. And, how easily we can be misled by others with so little information as long as it sounds good to us.
Because I've always had the theory that the witches in Macbeth weren't even actually telling the future. They were just fucking with them, and then it was all just like a self-fulfilling
It's a self-fulfilling prophecy, without a doubt. I mean, that's obviously the intent.
That's always. I mean,
think about what they just got back from doing. The spirit clearly was just preying on what was going through their heads. Like, they just walked away from stopping a guy from betraying another guy, and they're thinking, why are we, wasting our blood and sweat for this other guy? We could be wasting this blood and sweat for ourselves, for our own glory.
If
that's the weakness that they're preying on.
If the spirit /witches, depending on your version, did actually see anything by actually looking into the future, it was like telling them exactly which like promotion they were about to get, and then
reading the minds of their leaders. That's what it struck me as.
And then the rest of it, I think, is just like delusions of grandeur designed to make them act out on what they're telling them.
I think it's smart to open the movie on Mickey and Toshiro Mifune's character, because when Toshiro Mifune's wife is finally like, yeah, he and his son have to die, it feels like like I said, Toshiro Mifune got a samurai sword plunged through his fucking heart. That's how I felt. It wasn't like Macbeth for me, where I was like, oh, the guy who we're told is his friend, he's betraying. I'm going to now assume that that's bad. But I really felt something real with those two characters because I saw them trek like many, many miles together and go through all this crazy shit together. And they also heard the prophecy together. And I know that they did in the Macbeth play too. But like I said, I got more into their heads in this version.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, and that's just, one of the... Had you actually seen Macbeth as opposed to just reading it on a page, perhaps that would have been different.
Well, like I said, I now when I'm thinking back on it, I did sit through a movie version of it at some point, and I did like it, but it didn't knock my socks off, and I still felt like I didn't get into the heads of the characters.
That's always the weird thing about teaching Shakespeare in schools, and it's definitely something that we should be teaching.
What, the fact that they make you hate it? No.
No. But the fact that, obviously we should be studying Shakespeare in schools, but at the same time, there's something inherently lost by experiencing it in written form by just like reading the fucking script, because that's
and shoving it down your throats at 2:00 in the afternoon.
Because that's not what the medium is supposed to be. So there's something just inherently off about it, Mm-hmm. It does come across very, as you were just saying.
And when your 45-year-old teacher is standing 2 feet away from you, shouting the stage directions at you and asking you to read the dialogue, it's not the experience that Shakespeare intended for you.
I feel like this is very specific to your high school Shakespeare education.
I'm not saying that I am holding a grudge. I'm just saying that I don't think Mr. Shakespeare's intentions are being honored. That's all I'm saying.
Mm.
That's it.
What do you think about... well, there's usually when you talk about a samurai film, you can talk about what did you think of the swordsmanship, but there's not a whole lot of that.
Okay, I was going to bring that up too. I think that's another. I wish there was more action. I know this is not an action narrative, like the big murder that we've been discussing happens off screen, but at the same time,
do you
I missed.
Do you like
I missed.
that?
I missed. No, that's not a problem. That I think that's kind of necessary. Like you don't want to show that. That would be kind of exploitative. Then all of a sudden we're watching a Hitchcock movie. We're watching Psycho. You don't want that. We want to feel the people reacting to it. That's what this is.
That's really interesting because the movie we review next week involves a very gruesome sequence that one might consider exploitative. So it'll be interesting to see.
That's fine. That you can do that. It just depends on the medium, and this does not, or not even the medium. It depends on the exact themes, and this requires somebody to be standing in another room with the complete knowledge that a murder is taking place, not 20 feet away. That's just way more powerful in this instance. Perhaps watching somebody get stabbed to death is going to be more powerful in another context.
Yeah, I think the only 2 instances of on-screen murder are when he kills that guard who he frames for killing the Lord. We get to see him stab him, and then when he actually gets the arrow to the neck, right? I don't think we actually get to see anybody else.
No, there's
die.
no sword fighting.
I mean, we see the prince and the other guy getting arrows shot at them, but
yeah, I guess that horse chase scene is a little bit of an action scene. It's a chase scene, anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, I could have used some swords clanging. That would have been nice. Maybe before. See, but I guess that kind of ruins the emotional impact of the arrow scene. I don't know who they could have done it with. Maybe Mickey and Toshiro Mifune having a fucking sword fight at some point would have been in the cards, but at the end of the day, it's a pretty compact narrative, and adding or taking anything out might be problematic. But at the same time, I like sword fighting, especially in a Japanese samurai movie. Especially being directed by Akira Kurosawa. So maybe a sword fight was in order. Listen, I'm just saying that at some point maybe they could have been raided by bandits, and then we could have gotten some wachow,
Maybe he could have sword fought that ghost. Maybe
he should have tried. I feel like they did try. I feel like they did lunge at it at one point and nothing happened.
Didn't it just disappear at that point?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So Wachow doesn't work. See, the tagline of Samurai Month fails in this movie. You know, like fucking Wachow doesn't do shit.
Damn.
Samurai Jack would fucking, he would never be able to deal with this. He'd be like, what?
Are you kidding? Samurai Jack has a magical sword. That fucking spirit.
His magic sword could not bring the Great Lord back from the dead, or stop the ambitions of man.
Well, if the scenario samurai is that Samurai Jack is the one who happens upon the spirit in the woods, then there would be no Great Lord murder, because Samurai Jack would see through that spirit immediately and be like, "You are not on the side of righteousness." And
he'd be like, "I'm not killing nobody, son. I ain't getting pegged by the pigs, man."
And then he would stab it with his sword, and it would die. Again.
Do you think the sword would affect the spirit? Would it fade away?
I don't know. It works on Aku, so there is an episode where he fights a ghost, and I'm trying to remember if the sword is actually effective on that or not.
So if Samurai Jack joined the Ghostbusters, he wouldn't need a proton pack.
Most likely not. No.
Interesting. See, they'd probably hate him because they wouldn't be able to trap them, and then they wouldn't get paid because they couldn't prove that they were there. Because that's how the Ghostbusters have the box to show and be like, "Hey, listen, here's our evidence for needing $3,000 from you." Otherwise, they're just talking shit.
Oh, here's a problem with Throne of Blood.
There's too much blood on the goddamn throne. Somebody clean it up before we fucking sit on it. It's gross. Anyway, sorry, you were making a point.
How do you feel about the... Same. This is why we make good podcasting partners. No. What is your opinion of the dinner scene where Toshiro Mifune is like fucking, like he's fucking like
not doing
tripping
a
out.
good job of covering up the fact that he committed a murder?
I mean, he's having a fucking trip out in the middle of this dinner scene. Do you think perhaps
I feel like that was also in Macbeth, and I couldn't remember how they did it because I thought this was fucking way freakier. Like, Jesus Christ.
I think there is some version of that in Macbeth.
Now, was he seeing the ghost of the Great Lord, or was that the evil spirit?
I think that was Mickey. It was like a ghostly apparition of Mickey.
That's what I thought, too.
Because that's where Mickey was supposed to be sitting, and it looked like Mickey. Okay. And I don't know if it was the ghost taunting him by taking on the form.
Because I thought it looked like Mickey, but I was like, no, I think it's supposed to be the Great Lord, or maybe it's supposed to be the evil spirit, but I did think it looked like Mickey.
Well, he even calls it Mickey.
I don't even remember. Okay, that I don't remember.
Yeah. But I don't know if it's the ghost taking the form of Mickey to fucking taunt him, or if it's him having like a mental breakdown. It could be.
I feel like, I mean, you could even argue that, like, I guess you can, because he and Mickey both saw the ghost at the beginning, but you could feel like, it's all hallucination. It's all just the promptings of human nature. They could have encountered some fucking tranny in the woods, and he could have been like, "Hey guys, go kill your boss," and they could have been like, "Holy fuck, maybe we should do that."
What if Washizu never came home from the battle at the beginning, and this entire scenario...
It was a life model decoy.
This entire scenario is just a fever dream that he's having while the life drains from his body on a battlefield.
Whoa. Wow. Owen Wilson's response after hearing your pitch. He'll greenlight it. He'll be like, I'll support that. Wow.
Owen Wilson's response to everything, you mean?
Yeah. Listen, man, if they make Marley and Me Too, you can be for sure that you'll be able to make your project as well.
My dog has cancer? Wow.
My dog's alive again, but it has cancer too? That sucks. What if that was the plot? The dog is alive, but it's in a perpetual state of having cancer.
My dog came back from the dead, but so did the cancer? Wow.
It's like Deadpool. Like he and the cancer are like symbiotically invincible.
Oh, cancer jokes. No.
Why don't we make that version of? We'll call it Dog Pool. I'm sure this is already a thing.
think there's already a thing called dog pool. I'm not even
I'm
kidding.
sure it is. There's a Winnie the Pooh Deadpool parody comic called Deadpoo.
Yep. Dog pool is already a thing.
I'm
Yep.
sure.
'Cause
Um,
Deadpool had like an entire
what
team of other.
what
So I
about
won't.
Octopool? Is that a thing?
I don't know. We're getting way off topic though. What I was
Point
trying to
is
get at,
that Akira Kurosawa made a massive mistake when he didn't put an octopus in this here movie. A giant one, preferably.
definitely they rectified that in KKVG. No,
Obviously, the greatest Akira Kurosawa movie.
I mean Toho rectified it. They were like, why didn't he put a giant
Oh
octopus?
no, putting a giant octopus in a movie, you mean? Okay, yes, I agree.
Yeah. That's Toho's version of the giant spider that
Oh,
one
you're absolutely right, yeah.
executive always wanted. Uh,
Oh, John Peters with the Superman movie in the 90s.
yeah, it's like
Yeah.
my favorite. It's my favorite Kevin Smith story where he's like insistent on there being a giant spider, and then I go and see Wild Wild West, and there's a giant fucking spider.
So when I was a kid, I saw King Kong, and I just saw the doors open up, but I imagine you just see a fucking spider. Because did you know that spiders are the most deadly animals in the animal kingdom?
Anyway, so what I was trying to get at when I brought up the dinner scene is, do you think perhaps because of that sort of Japanese no style acting where it's all very sort of big and grandiose and the emotions are all very do you think perhaps that it crosses the silliness line a bit too much? Because I will admit that on this most recent rewatch, I found that whole scene kind of ridiculous. in like I couldn't keep a straight face kind of way. Do you have
I
that at
didn't
all?
laugh. I just don't know how anyone can still follow this dude after that. I just don't know how they don't immediately think that there's something. Maybe and they must. I'm sure they do, and we're just not told about it because we don't we don't get anybody's perspective other than his. But
Well, I would assume that that's part of the reason why.
I'm sure they're all suspicious from the fucking get-go. But
I'm sure that's part of the reason why at the end they all just figure out that like, hey,
I
this guy.
imagine that they're all aware of it from the start, and they're just waiting for like, oh, he really is fucked. Because that one scene where he's making that speech and he says, oh, I can't be defeated until the fucking trees rise up, and there they all laugh. I think they're all basically going to stay on his side, and as long as they think that he's a viable leader. But I think in that in that scene you're describing, they should have realized that he fucking wasn't. Maybe it was because he did like just his fucking like higher ups, just as like his cronies up in that meeting. So maybe they didn't spread the news that he'd lost his fucking mind.
Yeah, and like his wife's trying to do damage control, and she's not doing a very good job of that either. She's like, oh, he's very tired. Never mind.
She did the best that she could with what she had to fucking work with. I mean, she's fucking dealing with this raving lunatic.
Yeah.
She did the best that she could. I mean, the fact that she didn't freak the fuck out is just another testament to just her fucking stoicness and how badass she is. I mean, she's more stoic than he is.
I feel like everything we're describing right now can be applied to Washington at the moment. Yeah, but it's I don't know. I didn't have it the first time I saw the movie, so maybe it was just the state of mind that I was watching it in this time. But that whole scene, I was just like, I don't know. It reminds me of in Batman Forever, where Jim Carrey goes, has the line about being a god, and like his voice goes all deep, and then he says, "Was that over the top? I can never tell."
I feel like this movie is one of those weird movies where it's like if you bring it up to like a person who knows nothing about film, and you're just like, oh, do you think that this movie is realistic? They'd probably be like, yeah. But in reality, this is a fucking fairy tale. This movie is not a picture of feudal Japan at this time. No, it's a cautionary tale told in this setting, and it uses this setting to do whatever the fuck it wants to tell its story. There is no slavery to reality here whatsoever. Mm-hmm. And I feel like that's why stuff like that is acceptable. You can just roll with it. You can roll with the fact that these people don't do anything about the fact that they're following a psychopath, and they're clearly aware of it. Because that's what's necessary for the cautionary tale to be told. So, and the fact that it's bookended with that song and the evil spirit almost feels like a narrator, like almost like the storyteller's kind of window into the world.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely feel like you can kind of chalk up any and all bizarre things that would not work in the real world to that. So,
right, and again, a lot of it also comes from just the the cultural side of it. The
the
whole
Japanese
sort of,
are kind of weird. Did you ever notice that?
the whole Japanese theater tradition, and you see this in other Japanese films too. We all know that occasionally the Japanese will, especially in their media, just like get really loud all of a sudden and just like burst into a bunch of emotion. You know what I mean? Like you see this
Goku, Frieza. Yeah, I just watched Dragon Ball Super. I know.
Yeah, and it's totally a fucking like fantasy because in real life they're so reserved and shit. Like I feel that.
Well, they're trying to.
Why...
Yeah, well, that's why they do it because they can in their fantastic cartoons. They have this fantasy of speaking above room tone.
Yeah.
Having an outdoor voice.
But
like think about like there's no screaming in this movie like at all. Nobody talks above room tone.
Well, only when.
Well, at the very end. At the very end.
That and that scene I was just
yeah, exactly.
discussing.
That too. You're right. You're right.
When he's having his fucking freak out episode, and yelling at people who aren't there. How great would it be if Washizu just ran up to?
I wonder how they did that. I wonder how they did that effect. I wonder if they just had him there in that makeup. But there was a weird lighting effect on just him. That's why it was so cool. Because everybody else around him looked normal.
Maybe they had some kind of a spotlight setup that they could turn off when the camera. Because then you pan back over and he's not there anymore. That's clearly just a simple in-camera effect.
Well, I mean, that's just a different shot. But it looks like it's done in one take, even though it probably wasn't. But I don't know. I would almost think that you shoot him on a different screen, like altogether, like almost like by himself, to avoid the light spilling onto the others, because you don't want that. You want it to look isolated. And it did. So I don't know how they did it, but it looked cool.
Yeah. There's a lot of just really subtle touches like that where like the ghost shit is concerned. Or just there's something like vaguely otherworldly about what you're seeing.
The way
you can't quite put your fingers on it.
Yeah, the way they did the trees at the end felt the same way, where you don't really know how that's happening.
Yeah, it almost looked like they were. I mean, they were obviously wrestling, right? But it almost looked like it was happening in slow motion. Like, you know what I mean? Like it was very, like, or not even necessarily slow motion, but like slightly slower than normal motion. You know what I mean?
Sure.
There was something kind of like just like creepy and like ephemeral about it.
It definitely looks otherworldly, and you can't figure out what exactly is going on, like you said before. And then when you see what is actually going on, you're like, oh, that makes sense. And I thought that was just really great. There's nothing supernatural about it at all. It's just a bunch of people with trees in front of them walking towards the castle.
Mm-hmm.
Brilliant stuff. And I like that he didn't get to live to see that. Didn't deserve it. At the end.
Yeah.
Do you think they tore down the castle immediately after that? Because obviously, I mean, they show you the castle's not standing anymore.
Right, yeah, I don't know. Maybe
they were like, all right, it's done. That's the end of Spider's Web Castle.
I always got the impression, though, that when we go to the end and the castle's not there anymore, it's just because, the passage of time.
Probably. You're probably right, but I was wondering about it. I was wondering when exactly it got torn down.
I always thought that was like a statement about, this thing that Washizu was willing to kill over, this thing that he was so obsessed with that ruined his life, is fucking gone now. So all of that was pointless, Like I think that was supposed to be the idea.
All that's left of this whole drama is a rock in the ground. Yeah. Without a doubt. And the fact that nobody remembers it is the reason why people like Washizu will continue to exist, Like, I mean, Washizu is not a new creature in this story. You know, there's the guy who they're fighting and prior. That song is all about how the old ruins are, ignored by people, but they're a testament to all of the bloodshed and desire of the past and of the present. So the fact that we don't fucking know history, man, that's why we keep fucking up again and again.
Right, and I also think that's what the ghost is supposed to represent as well, because when they find the pile of bones behind the shack, there's a lot of they're clearly former soldiers. There's a lot of like fucking samurai helmets just lying around, so it's like almost like a GMK type thing, the fucking.
It does feel very GMK. That whole hey, young people, stop being fuckwits and remember us. Godzilla's all like, hey, Japan, remember all those people you killed in World War II. Remember the fact that a lot of the other Asian countries still hate you for the fact that you kind of enslaved them for a couple of years.
You also ate some of them. That's not cool.
Yeah,
don't eat people.
that's weird, man. That's kind of weird. Not gonna lie, Japan. Cannibalism is weird. I'm not saying it's. If you're gonna do it, I can't stop you, but it's weird.
Maybe don't eat people. That's all I'm saying.
I'm just saying that I'm gonna judge you for it.
I'm not even saying definitely don't eat people, but maybe don't eat people.
I'm not saying listen. Listen. I feel like if Akira Kurosawa were alive today, he would ask you to not eat people. And I'm just saying, for the memory of Akira Kurosawa, a respected member of the film community, maybe you should not eat people.
I would also say to anybody listening that if it's still up, I'm not sure if it's still up or not, but recently there was a wonderful documentary on Netflix all about Toshiro Mifune and Akira Kurosawa and their working relationship, and what's it called? I think it's called The Last Samurai. No, it's not called The Last Samurai. That's a movie with Tom Cruise. It's called something along those lines.
And this movie didn't have Tom Cruise in it.
I'm pretty sure it has the title Samurai in it. I'm just not entirely sure. Point being, it might still be up. If it is, give it a watch if you're interested in this sort of thing, because it's really fucking good documentary. No, but we were talking about what were we talking about?
I'm not sure exactly what we were talking about, but specifically, but
this review is a lot like Spiderweb Forest. It's very murky and
and hard to navigate, and we get lost. But then we end up mysteriously we find our way into a new patch, and it's like, oh, here's the thing.
Yeah,
it works in a weird way. It's well defended. But I mean, we're about at an hour, so I think we were about wrapping up anyway. So what else do you want to say, dear host of Samurai Month? Wachow.
What do I want to say?
Why did you pick this one? I'm going to ask you that. I ask you a question.
Oh, did I pick this one? I thought this was one of your picks. Didn't you pick this one, or did I pick everything? Did I pick everything?
You picked everything. I didn't pick nothing.
Oh, because I thought this was one that you wanted. This was one that you wanted to watch.
Oh, okay.
Remember? So why did you want to watch it so bad?
Well, I mean, because it's one of Kurosawa's like iconic big movies, and I hadn't seen it, so.
Yeah, I remember saying.
Wachow.
You see, this has just collapsed in on itself because you were asking me a question about why I selected it, but I specifically remember.
I remembered. I had remembered you picking them all.
I was just like. Well, I was in the process of picking them, and I was like, we should probably throw in a Kurosawa movie. And you said, oh, let's do Throne of Blood, because I haven't seen that one yet. And I was like, okay.
I don't remember that at all, but I believe you that it happened. I'm not going to question it. Partially because I'm tired. But, yeah, so I mean, that's a reason. But also the fact that it was based on a Shakespeare play was definitely a point of interest. Like, I wanted to see how that was handled, and it was the answer I got.
Yeah, I mean, listen. As I said before, this was the first Akira Kurosawa film that I ever saw, and obviously it was good because I've seen a number of them now. So, take that for what it's worth.
If you're into this stuff, this is one of the, the progenitors of the iconography. So you should give it a go. But it's not a gory action piece. It's a character drama. and in that regard, it's one of the best. So, give it a go. I'm gonna watch it again because I liked it so much, and I didn't get to watch it in one sitting the last time. It's one of those movies that's like, it's like Blade Runner, where I'll just put it on just to look at the pretty imagery, and I'll follow the story because I know the story. But I'm captivated by the world. I just want to look at it, man.
Yeah, it is the kind of movie that gets in your head.
Without a doubt.
But yeah, it's always hard. It's always hard to review a movie that you just generally
Yeah, sometimes reviewing
like.
movies is hard. We have such a hard life, don't we? Just reviewing movies all the time. How do we do it? How do we do it, Dylan? I don't even know.
No, it's hard to come up with things to say about a movie that's just generally good. You can only say go watch it so many times. But yeah, you can go
Are you
watch
say it again? Okay. You know what I'm going to tell you to do? Don't watch it. Just feel it, man. Just buy the Blu-ray and just put it up against your fucking pillow and just sleep on it, and man, you'll just know. You'll know how good Throne of Blood is. You don't even need to watch it.
Just see how it feels.
The radiation of the Blu-ray will seep into your brain and turn you into a Throne of Blood scholar.
Just see how good it feels, like up against your nipples, and then that'll help you decide whether or not you should watch it.
That went to a really weird place. I expect my henchmen to have a little more class.
But
That was funny. I laughed.
No, yeah. So, Throne of Blood.
So listen, we're telling you to rub Throne of Blood against your nipples. That's a review.
Get into Kurosawa if you haven't already. Watch Throne of Blood.
Try all of his movies against your various parts of your body. See how they feel. Seven Samurai against various parts of the butt.
You're gonna want to put Seven Samurai up against your penis. You know why? Because it's very long.
Jedi voodoo. Hidden Fortress. Put that on the taint. I feel like that makes a lot of sense.
It does, oddly.
I think there's anything odd about that. I think that just makes perfect sense. All right,
and if you have any body parts that vary depending on who's talking about them, put Rashomon up against it.
I feel like you should put "I Live in Fear" in your sphincter.
Is that an Akira Kurosawa movie?
Yeah, it's one of his lesser known ones. That one's about atomic mutations. I haven't even seen it yet, but it's been on my list for a long time.
Interesting.
It's one of those movies he and Hondo were buddies. He knew about Godzilla. That was sort of his take on the whole thing.
Can you imagine an Akira Kurosawa Godzilla movie?
I think it could have happened in a world where Toho would have let those movies be whatever the hell they wanted to be, as opposed to Toho being, here's what you're going to make with Godzilla.
Can you imagine if he had just gotten so bored of doing what he was doing that he had been like, screw it, I'm going to do a Godzilla movie.
Mm-hmm.
And what's Toho going to say? No? Their best director wants to direct a movie in their best franchise? Like, they're not going to say no to that.
Yeah, no, of course. God, that would have been wild.
I don't even know what that would have looked like.
I don't think it would have been a movie where Godzilla fights something. I feel like it would have been one where he's involved in some bizarre situation and we just kind of see a bunch of characters deal with it. I think that would have been cool. I don't know if it would have been. I don't know if Godzilla fans would have liked it, but I would have liked it. I love people just sitting around talking about Godzilla. It's my favorite thing, as I've shown in the past.
It's almost like you've based your entire life around that.
It's almost as if I've tried to make my entire life people sitting around talking about Godzilla because I've idolized people doing that in movies so much. Maybe that's my greatest weakness and my greatest strength in life.
Maybe that's your Dark Jiren backstory.
Yeah, but it's also like my Goku Ultra Instinct that I tap into when I'm all out of juice, you know? I just start talking about Godzilla.
It's a great way to clear a room.
Exactly right. And that's what I'm all about, man. Clearing rooms.
I think we're done here.
Well, we've cleared the room that is the internet, metaphorically and literally. So
I think we've about covered Throne of Blood. I don't know how this review turned out, but I do know that we'll be back here next week reviewing a different movie, and that movie is Harakiri, a film by Masaki Kobayashi, and a personal favorite of mine. I don't know if Bill's gonna like it because he might.
I don't like anything. Huh?
He might find it too depressing. Isn't that why it took you so long to watch Breaking Bad?
Oh, and you said that's like 2 hours, 12 minutes. Oh, Jesus. No,
But
I just dealt with stillbirths and shit. I'll be fine.
we'll see. So tune in for that. And in the meantime, just keep rubbing Japanese samurai movies against various orifices.
How could you not think that this review turned out well when that conversation happened? Of course it turned out well. What the fuck's wrong with you? You have no standard of podcast quality.
I guess
You're
that's
such a
true.
fucking failure. I've trained you to do nothing right.
And in that spirit, we shall depart. I have been Super DM64.
I'll try to be Bill Worcester, aka Zazubaar.
And this was the Demons from Outer Space. Samurai Month, Wachow, bye.
You heard it, and you can't unhear it. Deal with it, Colonel Hogan.